Although the N64 was flooded with sports titles early on, it may surprise you to know that All-Star Tennis 99 was the console's very first tennis title released in North America. However, those of us this side of the pond had already had centre court tennis, as had the Japanese. This game though was developed by Smart Dog and published by Ubi Soft in 1999. All-Star Tennis 99 made a valiant first attempt on the system, but ultimately had far too many flaws to have any hope of being a smash hit title. Given the lack of general popularity when compared to other sports, getting licenses for tennis should have been a breeze. With the sport always trying to gain more traction with viewers and fans, surely the tennis associations would have been more willing to help for the added promotion this game could have provided them. Bizarrely, All-Star Tennis 99 contains a mix of real-life and created characters, whilst also containing no real courts from across the globe. In terms of the roster to choose from, you have 12 players, with some well-known players of the time such as cover star Michael Chang, but many of the top players are all missing. Instead, after a measly 8 real-life players to choose from, you have a selection of generic characters such as Randy Powell and Vanessa Child. It instantly takes the feel of a high-end sports title away, and I personally would have rather than went all out with generic players than have this messy mix of the two combined. For those who picked up the French version, however, you were also treated to being able to select Yannick Noah, whom isn't present in the other releases. The standard tennis modes are all present, including singles, doubles and mixed doubles, and you can choose to play a quick game or create your own tournament. The courts are set in different countries but lend themselves to the standard, almost ridiculously stereotypical areas such as the Greek court taking place in an amphitheatre and the Japanese court appearing to be somewhere in a shogun's palace. Still, they add some welcome variation to the visuals, even if the court surfaces seem to do very little in terms of the gameplay. When in-game, you'll quickly realise that this isn't one of the easier tennis titles to get to grips with. There's a long wind-up delay when pressing the various shot types, and so if you're used to more arcade-like titles with quick reflexes, this will throw you off to begin with. But once acquainted to the handling, it does become easier, even if you rarely feel fully in control of your aiming. The players themselves animate well, and this is thanks in part due to the game's motion capture. But more emphasis really could have been put into the fluidity of motion when moving around the courts, as at times it does feel slightly shaky and that some animations do tend to be cut off halfway through a motion, giving it a somewhat awkward appearance. Sadly though, there are a large number of times where seemingly for no reason the game will enter heavy slowdown, and this isn't just limited to the player animations in between points. With the core tennis gameplay being a mixed bag, you may want to mix up the gameplay with some of the game's special features. Firstly, you have bomb tennis, which is a twist on the standard tennis affair. Every time the ball touches the ground, a bomb will appear and it will explode after a few seconds. This gives you a little time to return the shot and move out of the way, as if the bomb goes off and you're in the blast, you'll lose the point. Sadly though, anyone with at least half a brain will quickly realise that all you really need to do is stay on the baseline and return the shots from a distance enough times to eventually cause your computer controlled opponent to mess up and you'll win the point. Speaking of the AI, it's frankly terrible, and if you want any challenge whatsoever from this game, you should instantly go to the options menu and put it on the highest difficulty setting. When playing doubles with an AI partner, you never quite get the feeling that you can fully trust them to return shots or if they're actually going to leave it for you to return. There are occasions where they'll leave shots for you to return and then run into your path when you're about to return the shot. It can become intensely frustrating when they repeatedly cost you points, and so I would only recommend doubles if you have a friend to play with you. Another unique feature of the game are these special shots, and these can be turned on in the game's options menu or left off by default for any purists. With special shots turned on, you'll gain a special move momentum meter by returning shots, winning points and for good rallies. When your meter is high enough, you can execute a number of special shots which can be lifesavers or point winners dependent on your position in the game. Although this is a cool feature, it's one which hardly turns this from a mediocre tennis title into one of the better sports titles on the console. The game's music too is average at best, with the menu music being slightly catchy and no endgame music being played is really the only piece of music in the game. Instead, you're left with an aloof sounding British commentator who states the obvious and makes occasional poor comments, very much like myself. Perhaps a highlight of the audio was a moment where someone's phone started ringing in the crowd and the commentator went nuts. You'll laugh the first time you hear it, but that's about as exciting as the game's audio department gets. It's really hard to recommend All-Star Tennis 99 to anyone, to be honest. If you're wanting a fun tennis experience or want to play with friends, then Mario Tennis is the natural choice. And even centre court tennis has more refined gameplay than this, so if you don't mind the lack of real life players, I'd recommend that as a better title. All-Star Tennis 99 sits somewhere in the middle of an arcade and a simulation type affair that really tries to appeal to both types of gamer, but sadly it'll satisfy neither of them. You also can't help but think that with a little more money thrown at the associations, that they could have fleshed out the roster with some bigger names to bring the star power to the title. So for today's topic of conversation, I'd love to know if you believe having real life players makes a difference to you personally when playing sports titles. Also let me know if you had this game back in the day and your own memories of it. Whether you enjoyed this game or hated it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time.